Hello, Dream Team. Welcome along to Season 3. Would you believe it's episode 31 of The Good, the Bad and the Rugby? Tins is on yet another holiday, high above the skies somewhere, at the front of the plane, no doubt.
I wonder who has done the most work this year. Do you?
There's not a lot of wondering required.
Well, so you think you've done more shows than anyone?
Yes. I've missed 2.
Right.
You've missed 10. Tins has only done 2.
I can't miss 10. Have I missed 10?
No,
I've got 3.
I've got it written down somewhere.
Oh, fine. Well, no, Tins is just... I think it flows better without Tins anyway, doesn't it? It's not a problem.
Hope he's holidaying well. There's so much to talk about in the game right now, but we're sort of building towards the end of the season, and there's a lot to get stuck into. So to mark your card, we are now a month away from the Champions Cup final, and that leads us nicely into today's guest. He will be hoping to play for Toulouse. That is, of course, if they can get past the Leinster juggernaut. We've then got 4 months to go until England's summer internationals against Wales, Ireland and Fiji. He will be hoping to play, of course. And then we've got 5 months to go until Rugby World Cup, France 2023. We are in for an absolute epic. We've got 2 months out there being booked up as we speak. But our guest will be hoping not only to play, but to start as well, donning the white jersey of the Red Rose. It's all quite a far cry, you could say, from a few months ago when he didn't have a club. That was as Wasps unfortunately went bust. He was running his own drills at that point, on his own, at an empty training ground. But since then, my God, hold on tight. He's been picked up by Toulouse. He's starred for England in the Six Nations, and he has secured his immediate future very recently by signing for Les Rouges et Noirs for the next 3 years on a mega cash money deal. The kind of money that Hask can only dream of. It's congratulations, bienvenue, and a very warm welcome to Jack Willis. How are you?
How are you guys? Thank you very much for that, Alex. Very nice introduction, mate.
Yes. It's very nice to have you back. I know we've done this a couple of times before. I think last time we did this, correct me if I'm wrong, it was, I think, about the most tumultuous week of your entire career because you came on with Ellis, you were then left out of the England squad, you then got called into the England squad, you scored against Italy, and about 2 days, and then you did your knee.
Yeah.
And that all happened in the space of 72 hours.
Yeah, not far off, yeah.
Not far off.
That was like the first time when I first met Jack when we've been playing together, and I was off. I was injured. I went to Royal Wedding, and I remember checking with Jack, and I was like, Jack was playing with a broken ankle that he didn't know, and then did his knee in the game, so he was in a wheelchair with his legs up like that. And I really called him. I was like, how are you? I saw the thing with Jack Willis when I was like, how are you, Jack? And he went, yeah, not great. The ankle that I thought was really sore, that they weren't treating me on and wouldn't scan, was broken, and I fucking done my other knee. And I was like, wow, mate, I just fucking hell.
What is it? Why is your career so... I mean, do you ever stop and think and say, Jesus Christ, the autobiography is going to be good. You've got chapters to write.
Yeah, I think I must love the drama. I think I should blame part of that on Hask, to be honest, because he was complaining about his toe after he got the invite to the royal wedding. And I think the scan results came back, as we called it at the club, as royal toe. So he couldn't play that weekend, had to attend a royal wedding instead. So
yeah, funny that when I looked at who we were playing that week, and it was away at Saracens on a 4G field, I had a royal wedding officer. We were never going to beat them. They were destroying everybody, and I was just like, I was genuinely injured. I did do fitness, I couldn't do it. But I'll be honest with you. It was. If it had been 50-50, it was certainly. I was definitely never going to do it. But then I felt really bad because Jack had played, and as I said, he had an undiagnosed broken ankle, and then did his other knee. So.
Jesus. I know it's a generic question, but how are you? How is life?
Yeah.
Where are you at with planet Earth right now?
Yeah, no, good. Thank you very much. It's been. It really has been a crazy few months, but I think. Signing a few weeks ago and then it sort of officially being announced this last week was a real relief. I think it's nice to know that I've got my future secured and as a family, Megan and my little boy Enzo have been amazing. And Enzo's none the wiser, but Megan's been she's been genuinely brilliant and just kind of put up with everything that I've been through over the years. But this has been particularly tough. But no, we're in a new house now, and feeling very settled, which is great.
Probably a chateau, isn't it, with all the zeros on the end of the contract? Was it? And we'll come on to sort of England and the journey, etc. But was it a very easy decision? Was it contract down, sign, or did you have to deliberate? Have you had agents talking to all sorts of other clubs? What was the process?
I think there's probably two real sides of it. I think when I first came out here, I don't think I ever knew how special a club Toulouse was until I got here. I think I walked in the door day one and felt I've never been at another club. I've been Wasp boy since I was in the academy, came all the way through. So to get welcomed in the way I have been, everyone been so amazing and so helpful. I was sort of blown away really, and then playing my first couple of games, especially my first home game, I could not believe the support and the fans here. I think we're particularly lucky at Toulouse how incredible the fan base is. They are genuinely bonkers. Like just last weekend against the Sharks, I've never been at a ground. We've got, I think it's 20,000 seat stadium, but I've never heard that many people make that much noise. It was honestly, it was an unreal experience, and for me it sort of cemented, even though it was after I'd signed, I think it just cements in how I feel I've made the right decision. And this is not just about there's so many factors that have gone into this, but as a life experience, and I had quite a few family, Megan's family at the game, and I think they were kind of blown away by what a cool game to be part of. So I do feel pretty lucky, and I'm happy with my decision.
Jealous much?
Yeah, I said this to Jack a million times. I've said it in I am so jealous of him and what you're doing, because when I was playing at Stamford, say the team that I always wanted to play for in France was Toulouse, because I just thought watching that the Heineken Cup final, Wasps versus Toulouse, they're just fucking cool team, great players, superstars all over the place. The French absolutely are so passionate down there. They were sponsored by Nike. They were just a really cool team, like black and red. They look badass. Just the whole thing about it, that part of the country. So when Jack, of all the people I watched who sort of, because we've been mates since we were at the club together, but watching who got picked up by who, it was that I was like, Toulouse, that's the best move ever. Yeah. And I think, Jack, it's fair to say, your journey with Wasps, kind of when I came back to the club, you were just sort of coming back through the academy and all and all those bits and pieces that went with it, and it was a pretty tumultuous time. I've talked about the first time we came back, we had a sponsors evening for the first time in like a travel lodge in Marlow. There was 5 tables. That was all they had, the 5 tables. The compere was David Kirk, right, the ex-referee, and the auction prizes was an out-of-date Wasp signed shirt that was an old one, and a box of Aber Ale, but broken, bit of a broken box. Those were the raffle prizes. And we didn't know when the money was going to come. There was none of that stuff going on. So then but something about Wasps is quite indoctrinating because of the team spirit in the club, and kind of you don't think that life will be like anything else. So you don't think life outside the club will be as the same as Wasps, and it has this magic. And then suddenly you go to France and you're playing in front of 20,000 people, and the professionalism is through the roof and the intensity is through the roof, and you suddenly realise that going to any other club, rugby's always rugby wherever you go, and actually it doesn't have to be better, but it's very different. So I've just been so jealous of it, Jack. So I wondered kind of how's the family found it moving across there, because that's one of the key things. I think sometimes players are quite good at adjusting, but when you've got a wife, when you've got kids, when you're asking them to come away from their family, that can be, I think, the hardest thing.
Yeah, I think you're spot on. I think, when being really honest, when we first came across, we knew it was a 6-month deal. It was till the end of the season. Still didn't quite know what was next and what we were going to do. We kind of rushed into a house that we just were like, right, this is what we're gonna do. We need a house, because I obviously lost my job at Wasps, trained on my own for a week, and then went into 4 weeks of England camp. Eddie then said to me, look, you're not playing against South Africa. So I rang. I'd literally only signed the week before. I think it was on the Friday before, for Toulouse, and then I rang Hugo and said, look, I'm not picked. I'd love to come back and play. And he said, great. So I flew. I got told Tuesday afternoon I wasn't playing. Flew Tuesday night, trained Thursday, and played Sunday for them. So I was in an Airbnb up until that game, and then we picked a house to move into the following week, and kind of just rushed into it all. But then I went back for the Six Nations, and during that period there was a lot of decision making that had to be done, because you come into that point where I'm like, right, I've only got 3 or 4 months left before I don't have a job again, and that pressure was starting to build up in my head, and for Megan as well. I want to make sure that it's obviously rugby is a career, as a great career, but it's also your job and what you get paid to do. And I'd had a very good reminder of that very recently, and I was like, right, I need to make a decision now. And we kind of then moved into it, and from the moment we made the decision, I think it's been so much easier to really buy in socially and commit yourself to it. Whereas it's hard when you know you might be leaving it. you're always holding a little bit back because you almost don't want to get hurt again, making all these friends and then going away again. But no, I really do feel like we've settled in since sort of coming back post Six Nations.
I know how much you loved Wasps, and probably still do as their journey sort of starts again type thing. But is it too simplistic to say you really have moved from the pauper to the prince in terms of club? And what are the things when you walked in for the first time to? I mean, I think I'm right in saying Toulouse has got the biggest budget in club rugby, and that's not just playing; it's sort of operational as well. But what are the things where your eyes went, "Holy Moses, this is different level"? Is it canteen, gym, kit? Recovery, etc. I mean, have you really noticed a significant difference?
Shit in the ice bath? Were you training in mud? Did the generator run out of electricity? Did any of that happen?
Sticking their hands in the protein. I remember that when that random bloke walked in and started sticking his hands in the protein.
Wearing a McDonald's bib, wasn't he? It tasted that he was eating it with his hands, and I was like, I sort of flagged out, went, any anti-doping concerns? And I was like, who? And he was like praying to the pictures.
Yeah.
But anyway, any of that going on in Toulouse, a really professional environment.
That's just reminded me of when we had our Christmas dinner at Wasps, and Hask was doing his speech. And he stood up in front of everyone and talking about the training ground and stuff and said, "Oh yeah, like we were only meant to be here 6 months. We've been here 6 years." And last week a toilet door fell on my head. And then he was like, I sent a couple of pictures on my Instagram story of the training ground. I had a few people reply asking me if I was in Syria.
Yeah.
Do you
remember we had that mad? Do you remember that mad cleaner as well that would like hide? Remember he had his own office. He just hide in the office, not clean.
Toast. Do you remember?
So we had a cleaner called Toast because he just always eating, always in there like absolute jobs worth. Just come and sit down next to lads, just toast. Mate, I can't. Do you remember that we had to have full times groundsman just to broom water off the field just so we could get a training session? I mean, Toulouse must be better than that in it. I know it's hard.
Yeah, I know. I think you probably be surprised in some ways. I think it's the community, the community thing around Toulouse is what's special. I think there's no one individual owner of the club to start with. It's a group of sponsors that have been with the club for 40 years, and led by the president that's been voted in. And then working down from that, you've got a bus driver that's driven the bus for over 20 years. You've got guys that used to play together that are now in the coaching team. They're in the recruitment team. They're working with the academy. They're working behind closed doors in the offices. Like you've got a group of people that have known each other for such a long time, and an environment that if you commit yourself to the club for your career, that they'll look after you out the back of it. I think that's one thing that English rugby really did lose was the loyalty side of things, and I think that's purely down to the money side of it. And one thing that's so special now being at Toulouse is how well you'd get looked after if you commit yourself fully to your career at the club. They'll look after you off the back of it as well. And I think that as much as we've got a fantastic facility here. But it's not just that. It genuinely is the people and the way they look after each other here.
Interesting. There's so many things to sort of talk to you about, I suppose. But just in terms of doing the deal, was there a lot of interest in England? Did you? Well, actually, sorry. Let's go back one. Do you know now what signing the deal with Toulouse means for your England career beyond the World Cup?
As it stands, the ruling is that post World Cup. You have to be in England to play for England. I think for me and for anyone who was affected by the Wasps and Worcester stuff, I feel there's an argument for that to be made an exemption, and that's something that obviously I'll be pushing and fighting for. My main focus is to play as well as I can week in, week out here at Toulouse, and then hopefully I can get an opportunity at the World Cup, and I've just got to try and do the same there. And I don't think these decisions aren't going to be made by me, because if they were, then I'd have changed the rule today, and it'd all be plain sailing. But it is more complicated. That I understand that, but I had to control my own destiny and make my decision.
That's a very good media answer, and I just sort of want to dig into that a little bit. Did you have a conversation, or I presume your agent, did they have a conversation with anyone at an England level about the fact that your move to Toulouse was forced by your current employer going bust? Has there been any conversation around exemption circumstances for you personally?
Yeah. Look, that's what's happened up to this point as well, and up to the World Cup. So that I've been talking with the guys at the RFU about this, and obviously I think I've been pushing that in the back of my mind, knowing that I wanted to stay here, that I obviously want to continue playing for England. That's what I've dreamed of since I was a young boy. But equally, I think this is the sort of dream. Being at Toulouse is the dream that I never knew I wanted. I know it sounds a bit cringe, but being here now, I probably would have always been at Wasps and sort of always looked to play with my brother and continue there, and I probably would have ended my career there. That's the fact of the matter. I would have been there for the rest of my career, and I never really experienced something different or tried something different. So that's the near enough fact in my opinion. So everything that happened at Wasps was not my fault, not in my control. So the reason I've ended up abroad is purely down to those circumstances. So it is for me, that's a sort of like an exceptional circumstance, but I equally understand there's lots of things that they have to consider with the decision making.
Did you have offers, interest from English clubs?
The majority of clubs we spoke to really was around the budget and the salary cap at the moment. I think you know how tight things are at the moment and how difficult it is. It wasn't helped by Wasps and Worcester going bust. Everyone was from Wasps and Worcester that could find a job, found a job at the rest of the clubs that did have cap space, and that cap got even tighter than it was before. And then you're also looking at a load of clubs that can't spend any money, even if they did have the cap space, can't spend more money. So there was discussions here and there, but anything that was realistic and feasible sort of wasn't really on the table.
It's interesting because that sort of dovetails with what Anthony Watson was saying the other week, is that the better you play, the harder it is for a club to have you because you're away for half the season, etc.
I mean, and obviously, I've always been an admirer of Jack. I think he's a fantastic player. I really think this move, and I said this to him, is going to be the making of him, because I genuinely think, knowing Jack, you never would have left Wasps. You were like a one-club man. I think you and your brother epitomise kind of passion and loyalty and a great team man. And I think, unfortunately, in business, clubs exploit that. Like, why would you ever offer Jack more money or give him the best deal, knowing that he'll never leave? Because and obviously this being forced, I think the opportunity to go and play in Toulouse, it will be defining for so many reasons. Because it's forced you to leave the country, forced you to stand on your own feet, learn a new language, understand, about getting out of that cocoon of Premiership rugby, seeing what it's actually like, going and playing those big games. Like I know you said about your first home game there, but obviously you got to play in Europe a couple of times before. Those games away at the moment must be, when you're going to likes of Clermont and Castres and Stade Francais, it's amazing, isn't it, to go and see those, just really how it's so different from the Premiership.
Yeah, well, I think every game feels like it almost feels like when you were prepping back at Wasps, prepping for a European match. It feels like that every single week here. I think every game you come up against, we played Lyon last night. Yeah, played Lyon last night, and we had a packed stadium again. And you're watching this game thinking this just battle of massive humans running into each other, and it is so physical here. Like you've got every team you play against has got big forward pack, big aggressive physical forward pack, and then crazy talented backs that you sort of met. Some of them you may not have even heard of, but they're just crazy talented, rapid players that you've got to sort of deal with. And I feel like every game I'm playing in, I'm learning from that, and you're being challenged in different ways. And I was even talking to one of the lads about how different each game in the top 14 can be. That you one game it's all about defence. That's all you're doing all game. And then the next minute, it's like we have the ball for the next game you play. It's all about attack, or it's always got a different angle to it. And I feel like every game I play, I'm having to adapt to the way I'm playing, and it's definitely making me better.
If you obviously you spoke to the offers and say that the club and the stuff wasn't money, salary cap wasn't an issue in England, would you have still, if you'd had the choice, would you still have chosen to stay in Toulouse? Because what I'm hearing is it was a no-brainer to stay, really, in comparison.
Yeah, I think if I was comparing the opportunity rugby-wise that I had here to back home, then that was a factor. Look, I think there's twofold to this. This is my job, and this is what I do. It only lasts for a certain amount of time, and I do have to look at it from a financial point of view. And yes, that was considered, but I I chose Toulouse because it came down to rugby and the experience that I got, I'm getting, and how special a club it is to be part of. And I think one thing that I've always driven towards and wanted to do in my career is win trophies. And being at Wasps, we had a couple of close games where I was involved in a semi-final and also a Premiership final where we came pretty close. And that to me means a lot. And the way that the guys here talk about winning, and it's more a case of like we don't lose. Like it's not acceptable to lose. It's not. And looking towards trophies that they want to win. There's a genuine ambition every single year to add another trophy to the cabinet. And for me, it's just so exciting being in those meetings and the last couple of weeks talking about in these European competitions. It's the first time I've ever played in a Champions Cup quarter-final. And for me, that's just something that I feel really grateful for. And hopefully in a few weeks playing in that Leinster game would be pretty special as well.
I just want to do one more question on, I suppose, the England situation, and then I want to dive into some of the superstars you're playing with. But are you comfortable post-World Cup that the England thing may have to go on hold for a bit? And how difficult, painful a sort of a reconciliation has that been?
Yeah, I've had to come to terms with the fact that the ruling it may stay the same way. I think I'm not going to stop fighting for that to change. But I had to make a decision. As tough as it was, I'm at peace with the decision I made. I made the decision to better myself as a rugby player, and if I do have genuine England ambitions, it's about being the best rugby player you can be, and I'm at the best place to do that. So that's my argument here: is that being at Toulouse, I'm going to be the best player and the best version of myself, so that shouldn't hold me back for my England career, is my opinion. But I'm at peace with the decision I've made.
I also think it probably helps when you're winning and competing for trophies. Do you know what I mean? That I think is, if you look back at my career and go, what was important? Well, hanging out with the lads was great, and that the laughter was fun. But
Jack wants to play for England and win trophies. You would just happy hanging out with the lads.
What I mean is that sitting around, that camaraderie. Because I want to come on and ask about the French in a minute, but I think playing for England is amazing. But when you're at a club like Toulouse, and obviously not being there, but imagine that competition and winning trophies and playing with elite level people. Actually, that softens the blow. It's one thing if you're not playing for England and you're getting pumped every week and you're seeing people do better than you, when actually I think for me that is the perfect place if you're going to do it. And when I saw that Jack had signed, I thought, this is a perfect example why they've got to change that rule and why they, when I played, I didn't have that rule. And I just think it's bollocks. Are
you hearing anything as to whether there might be T's and C's attached to the sort of general premise of English players have to play in England? Might Steve Borthwick be allowed to pick 3 or 4, or your circumstances be different because you were forced to go to a club that made you an offer, whereas English clubs weren't?
Yeah.
Is there any nuance?
I think that's certainly my hope, that there's those discussions going on, and it's something that I'll sort of keep prodding away at, because my passion for playing for England hasn't disappeared. It's still very much there, and I hope that they do look to change it. But fundamentally, I can't control that, and those conversations may be going on, but it's not up to me or down to me.
Are Toulouse supportive of your England ambitions?
Massively, and I think that's one thing for me that has sort of made me fall in love with the place and the club as well. They were so good during the Six Nations. I couldn't speak more highly of how brilliant they were. Obviously, the ruling as it stands is that if you play abroad, you're only allowed to go to your team during the sort of IRB 9 time windows that are given. Toulouse let me go and train outside of those windows and then come back and play for them. And there was just constant discussion as to what was going to give me the best chance of playing for England in the following week was back and forth, and every decision they made was to support, regardless of whether it was for the best for them. They put me first and put my England ambitions first, and it's something that I'm really grateful for, and something that I think proves that it could work as well.
So that's very cool, because what my memories were of French clubs buying talent and basically shutting off their international ambitions.
Well, that's what I did. What was Stad? They obviously the windows. I had it in my contract, that I was able to go outside of those windows. And one game stat, I said it before, this one day, Max just went, "No, we want you back." And England didn't play me. And I said to Martin Johnson, "Could I go back and play with Stade Francais, please?" And he said, "No, we want to keep you here." And I went, "Yeah, but I'm not playing. Can I not go?" And he said, "No." And Max took out half my wages for the month, and deducted them, and then never paid it back, and then told me to sue him because he said I'd broken the rules. So that was carnage. So it's good to hear, that
you've laid the path for others to follow.
I don't think I have, and but I think for me, that's interesting. I'm so envious because it just sounds wicked, doesn't it? Like good people doing good things. Do you feel? Because I thought you played very well for England during the Six Nations. Do you feel already that you're a better player because of it?
Yeah, I think my confidence in attack is something that is definitely improving, and something that I'm working hard on improving my ball skills as well, because of the way Toulouse like to play. As you see, it's very jouet, as they call it, and we're chucking the ball about, and I want to make sure that I'm adding to that. I think the one thing that I do believe is improving is probably the ability to handle the pressure, because each game feels like there's a massive amount of pressure on it. There's a massive amount of expectation on every game we play that we want to go out and win, that we put on ourselves, and external, internal. And I think that's something that definitely would help going into the Six Nations arena and into the England setup, which hopefully they sort of tied in together quite nicely.
Just for the benefit of those who don't follow the top 14 that closely, going to name check a couple of your teammates: Thibaut Flamand, Anthony Gelange, Julien Marchand, Thomas Ramos, Ange Capuozzo, and then the small matter of Antoine Dupont and Romain Intermac. Are you seeing things in training now? I mean, I know you used to train with old 2 left foot Hask here in Syria.
Old Ricketts over here.
Yeah. Are you seeing things in training now where you're just like, wow, this is another level? I mean, obviously you see it on game day, and we see it on game day, but I'd love to know what it's like to be in and amongst quality like that on a daily basis.
Yeah, I think in training there's definitely a couple of lads that you mentioned there that you'd rather them, when they're reading out the names for who's wearing what colour bib, you're definitely hoping they're in the same side as you. I think there's definitely moments where the one thing that I found interesting is how many little games they play in and around training, before training, after training. They're always, everything they do is involved, like having a bit of fun with involving a rugby ball, whether it's having a drop kick off, whether it's like passing skill games, little competitions, and some of the stuff you see them do with things like that, with like offload games they're doing, and just when they're messing about and it's just a bit of fun, and you think, how are you pulling some of those things off? It's pretty impressive.
Dupont as a character? Very
composed, very impressive rugby player, and as a bloke, he's very focused on doing his job on the pitch and getting the job done. I think he nothing much seems to faze him, to be fair to him.
And what about Romain? Has he been giving you a little? I'm hoping to see a slightly bigger boof from you at the World Cup, certainly with a bit more style and swish.
I don't know. I've probably been misled by Hask in my early years with the sort of boot-cut jeans and. I think they're great guys and they're guys that have played at a high level from a young age, and I think you can see the composure that they've got, and that's the reason they are the players they are.
The one thing Jack's never going to lose is that hairline.
It's coming down to his eyebrows.
He's got a preceding hairline as opposed to a receding one. By the time he's 30, it's going to be over his fucking nose.
Oh, for that problem.
There's nothing you could do with that. There's no like where you can have an Intermac Buffon hair. That's just a Lego clip-on thing. He's just got one for each day of the week.
Yeah.
There's nothing you could do with that. What just in terms of how have the French accepted you there? Because I know when I went to Stade, they were great. Obviously, I'm a slightly different character to you in terms of my my loudness and stuff, and I know that they used to say, "Oh, hello, roast beef," and all this kind of stuff, but they kind of are quite curious as well to kind of know what it's like to have an England player in the mix.
Yeah, I think one thing I was told going over is make an effort with it when it comes to the language. I really push and I am pushing to learn as quickly as I can. It's very difficult, but instead of just going in there day one and being like, "Hello mate, how are you?" just even trying your best to say "Bonjour, ça va?" I think it went a long way, and it's something I've tried to do throughout, and I'm still trying my best. I'm having lessons each week and trying to develop that, but it is very tough. But I think that hopefully that goes a long way, because at the end of the day, I'm in their country. I shouldn't be. We're, as English as a race, we're very, very sort of ignorant to learning other languages. We're like, well, everyone speaks English and we crack on that way. But I've tried my best to sort of not follow suit in that regard, and they've been great. Really, I think a lot of them do speak really impressive English. So when I'm there trying to talk some shit French to them and piece together, taking me 10 minutes to say a 3-word sentence, they just
where's
go,
the
look,
beach?
mate.
Can I have a baguette?
Yeah. They're just like, mate, we can speak English if you want. You're like, yeah, right. But at least you tried. So.
Well, the good news is, Jack, your banter in English wasn't that good anyway, mate. So I don't think I'm going to miss anything out. And honestly, I don't think the French. Yeah, I don't think the French have got anything to worry about. This doesn't matter if you can't speak the language. You're not missing out. Just as long as they pass you the ball and you tackle people, I think you'll be all right. By the
time I've figured out how to say my joke in French, I'm looking around. Everyone's left the room anyway. So.
Oh, they do that in England, mate. Yeah. Everyone just goes to sleep. Jack, tell us your best. But you are trying with the chat, and they kind of, do they give you a bit of time, like, because that was one thing I found hard and actually a big regret about Stag, because I was backwards and forwards all the time. Obviously with the England stuff for big chunks at the time, and the Eurostar was so easy. I'd go back on my days off to go and see Kevin Lidlow to get physio. I didn't really put as much time into the French as I should do. When Ollie Phillips, my housemate, became instantly fluent, and it made a massive difference. They are giving you some time, and you do feel like you're able to build some relationships at the moment. Yeah,
definitely. I think that I'm having a couple of lessons a week, and trying my best on that front. The one thing I did find really tough is when I went away from the Six Nations and I came back and played in the Racing game. So I'd been away for, I think it was like 3 or 4 weeks at that point. I think they must have thought, it felt like they thought I'd been on an intense French learning course, because when I came back, it felt like everything they said to me was in French, and I was honestly like, I don't know what you're saying. Please help me here. I was like, I'm really struggling. I'd probably gone downhill over that 4 weeks. I think you don't realise how much you start to learn to understand, even sort of in the background. But yeah, coming back the last few weeks, hopefully, it sort of by the end of the season, I'll be a little bit better.
Do you know they said that the best way of I think Ollie did it was you obviously drive to and from training. Yeah. They put the tapes on in the car.
Duolingo's the one you want.
Yeah, honestly.
Do you do Duolingo?
Yeah, I've done a bit of Duolingo. I've been listening recently to an audiobook, like Hask was saying, like an audiobook on French. So I'm talking to the audiobook in the car as I'm driving to work.
Jean-Baptiste, arrive.
Où est le plat? La piscine. Bonjour, ça va? Qu'est-ce que tu fais maintenant?
It was a very impressive contract announcement, actually. Did you put a bit of work in on that?
Yeah, I actually used one of my French lessons to try and get to grips with the speech. I basically put together what I wanted to say in English, spoke to my French teacher, and got her to translate it across. And then we spent an hour sort of practicing away. And then Megan probably knows it off by heart as well, because I said it to her about 1 million times before I went and did it. But I wanted to memorise it. I think for me it meant a lot to give that a go, because how much support and respect I've been shown by not only everyone here at the club, the supporters as well. It felt like a very sort of little thing I could do to try and show the bit of respect back.
Have any of the French players been a little bit reserved with you, kind of just trying to sizing you up a little bit, like the other back row players welcome you? Because I know it can become quite competitive, and sometimes, of all the teams, actually, I think Rob Andrew played for Toulouse. Yeah. Then Toby Flood, but nobody else. I remember, as I said, when I tried to sign him, I remember messaging Thierry Dusautoir. I don't think he was that keen to he's a way better player than I ever was, but I kept saying to him, look, can you hook me up? And he was like, yeah, I'll help. Basically telling him, no, don't fucking sign him. But I wonder, but some guys can be a bit reserved. They sort of look at you and go, is this guy for real? Is he committed? Because there is still that kind of competition a little bit, isn't there, with sort of English and French? Or so I found.
Yeah, I think there's always a bit of stick you get being called le Ruspif, but the back row guys here have been honestly amazing. Like, it helps that in the back five I've had Thibaut, who was at Wasps before a couple of years ago. And the rest of the guys have been really welcoming and really helpful. A lot of the back row guys actually speak really good English as well. So it just happens that they're some of the top English speaking guys. And they've been so helpful to me in learning my roles and things like that. It was at the beginning was definitely a little bit of a challenge. But I think, you just need to sort of turn it into code words effectively and learn that rather than thinking of it as a language barrier. You just kind of learn it in that sense.
I'm conscious that there are going to be one or two people at the RFU with their head in their hands off the back of this, because you're doing a very good job for English players moving to France and the benefits of. But tell me about the lifestyle down there as well, off the training pad. I mean, how beautiful is Toulouse? How much is it? How good is it to have blue skies? What's the coffee like, etc.?
Yeah. I think that is another side of things it really is incredible. I think the weather is something that I'll always appreciate. A bad day here is if you see a bit of rain and it's below sort of 18 degrees, you're a bit disappointed. So it's
just like Coventry.
Yeah, it's very similar to the Midlands. But no, look, I think when you're running out and it's sunny, blue sky, you do feel very lucky. That adds to part of it. But that's just sort of the bonus on the outskirts of it all, really.
What is it you do as a team? Like, is there like a coffee spot? Do you go to restaurants? Because obviously the wine and the food in that region are particularly well known. So is there a bit of that goes in?
Yeah, I think it's probably a little bit different in the sense of back home we'd always go for coffees and stuff post training. Here it's more about in an evening every couple of weeks there'll be a team meal or a forwards meal or a backs meal that's organised, and then also. If it lines up with the schedule, if we get a good result, normally off the back of a home game, that we'll go to one of the lads' restaurants. That's something that's quite popular here. A lot of the boys invest in restaurants, I think, because the French love their food and love their drink. They normally do quite well restaurants out here instead of property, which is quite interesting. So we've quite often, after a good win at home, they'll organise a few drinks and some food at one of the lads' restaurants.
Is Brennan's bar still going?
Yeah.
Is Trevor Brennan's bar still?
Yeah.
Oh, we had some great nights in there back in the Sky days.
Jack, you could open a restaurant, Jack Willis's Fish and Chips.
That is something I miss. That is
shipped in from Preston.
If you're putting on a list of negatives, no fish and chips and no English sausages or English bacon is definitely
But they do have a great saucy song, like the old salami meats and stuff, and the cheese. It's what you lose with one hand, you gain with the other. But I can imagine, because the French kind of are very snobby about their food. I would say, consistently, I don't know how many away games you've done, but when you stay at some of the hotels, the food you get for those pre-match meals and at the hotel, shits all over. Having a sort of a lukewarm lamb shank in a travel lodge, before a Wasps game, or just a trough of baked beans garnished with some dog turds. So trying to, or watching Dai Young eat, he thought custard was soup. I've told you that before. He went up, picked up a bowl, he put salt and pepper on it, looked at it, was like, I just ate the whole bowl of custard. But no, I mean, the food is the spreads. They look after you very well, don't they? Because they sort of, they put the infrastructure around the players as well, so don't they? So that kind of stuff makes a big difference. But I think you should maybe try and bring some English food in there. But they just hate it, the French. They go, this is bullshit.
Interesting. I mean, I know it's early days for you, but someone like Simon Shaw still lives down in Toulon, doesn't he?
Yeah.
And is sort of has gone and really, in a long-term way, invested in the area. Can you see yourself sort of getting properly stuck into life in the south of France?
Yeah.
Or do you think there's a part of you that one day will want to come back to the Midlands?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think the one thing that is really tough is I'm a family man, and having family not so close is really tough. But we're really lucky with the airport is 10 minutes away from our house, and there's pretty good access from England to Toulouse. So you can probably do the trip in under 4 hours door to door, which is pretty good.
Yeah.
Considering I've ended up abroad, and you could still do the journey in that sort of time. But yeah, who knows how we'll settle in down here. But equally, like I said, the family side of things is always tough, and not being too that close to home always is a factor.
Your dad must be out there every bloody week. He loves it. He's your biggest fan and rugby's biggest fan, and he must be staying there all the time.
Yeah, normally the post-match bit where it's we've got like a post-match bit that's just unlimited free cheese and wine and all you can eat everything. Basically, it's brilliant setup they do after the games. But he certainly loves that. It's
mental that the spread, the French rugby spread, especially like Toulouse or at Stade Francais, was ridiculous. If you think about like finishing a Wasps game, sausage mash, or a chili con carne. The stuff post match is mega over there, isn't it?
It's crazy, absolutely crazy. And the first time I walked into it, I couldn't believe. I was like, this is busy. They must be making a fortune. And they're like, oh no, they put this on for part of the there's like a membership you can get, and all of this is free. All the alcohol in that tent is free, and people just party until later in the night. And then there's at Toulouse as well. We've got like this called the Bodega. La Bodega, I think it's called, and it's basically a nightclub. So after the game, people drink in and around the stadium, and they go into the Bodega and can party until 4 in the morning. It's
what a brilliant idea that is.
Just keep them all, keep
them
the
all
coin,
there.
keep the coin
Keep
washing
spending.
around. How have the fans been with you? Are they interested to know a bit about you? What's it like having an English player in the mix?
Yeah, I think so. I think they've just sort of they've been really welcoming as well, and at times I think there's a couple of times where I've come out post game and you're really overwhelmed by how many fans are out there, especially that last week against the Sharks. We played the Sharks. And then there's like you probably walk about 80 metres, something like that, to get to the family lounge bit. And the fans just stayed around after the game, and it was absolutely covered in people that wanted to say hello and say well done for the match to all of the lads. It's really impressive. It's pretty cool.
I want to talk about England, obviously, because it's a huge sort of a huge few months for you. But just a few reflections on Wasps, if you don't mind. Is the old Wasps WhatsApp group, is that still a thing? Is the gallows humour still active, or has everyone slightly cut ties and gone their own way?
Yeah, no, we've still got our group chat that lads will pop a message on here and there. Quite often it's because the tough thing with what happened is there's still lads that haven't gone on to find their next opportunity. So if lads have got a career opportunity coming up, they'll pop a message on the group saying, lads, I know this guy who's happy to help with CVs, or look, I've got this opportunity, he's willing to give some work experience up. And I think lads are all trying to look out for each other as much as they can, because we all went through that. And I think it's something that day that we were told, I think and a couple of weeks leading up to that as well, I don't think we'll ever leave our minds.
Tell me a bit more about. I mean, we obviously spoke to Matt Kvezik about the Warriors situation, but just give us a sense of what that week, 10 days, 2 weeks was like for someone who bled for the club as much as you did.
I look back on it now. I think there's a massive part of me that looks back at the incredible memories that I made and the friendships that I've made that I'll keep for life, and feel so grateful. But there's equally that part of me that looks back on it with a bit of a sour taste, if I'm honest. I think with everything that had gone on, to start off those 10 days, then I was sat on the sofa having a cup of tea. The Worcester stuff had started kicking off a few days, I think it was a week before us, 2 weeks before us, and I just read on Twitter, Wasps go into administration. And I was like, what? I was like, they've misspelled Worcester here. Like, I didn't know what was going on. Not heard a peep up to this point. And it was that notice of administration that we got put into. So straight away, we put screenshots onto them. I think it was Brad Shields put a screenshot onto the senior leadership group with the staff in and said, like, what the fuck's this, basically? And the next day we had a meeting. Oh, don't worry. It's just, we've done this to hold off HMRC, who are after some of the tax bills. Like, it's nothing to worry about. We'll get it sorted. And then a couple of days later, we were told that, look, like, these are the routes that it might go down this way. But don't worry, we've got 3 buyers in that are really looking really positive. So we were like, okay, like, fine. They were like, it's a different situation to Worcester. It's different. Carried on, and then we were kind of, if I'm being really honest, I think we were misled a little bit that things were looking quite positive, and actually they really, really weren't. We then, I think it was the day of, I think it was a Wednesday, we were told that we were no longer going to be able to play for the club, but the 2 weeks building up to that, we didn't realise that there had been discussions as to whether we should have been able to play or not, but we were playing potentially without the insurance and the backup of that cover that we're due, but because the club couldn't afford to pay the insurance. But we played those games, and then it got to the point where the RFU and everyone made the decision, look, you can't go on any longer. The club couldn't prove that they could pay for that insurance. And that's when we were told that, look, we're not going to train anymore. It's done. We'll see you on Monday. But between now and Monday, we would have completed on the new buyer. Like, we'll have it all sorted. And then we had an email come through over the weekend. And it was a really strangely worded email, really formal. Came through. And it just said, we've got a meeting on Monday, come in regarding the administration. So we all just thought, and what we've been told up to this point is, look, we will probably go into administration on Monday, but your contracts will be held in escrow, if you like, and the new buyer will simultaneously take over the contracts and it will continue. So we're all like, okay, well, look, I think there's part of us that are probably a little bit naive, part of us that were really hoping that that was the case. It's kind of gone on, and we then walked in on. I think no one will forget that day. Really, we walked in, and a few of the board members and the owners looked like they'd seen a ghost, but it still kind of didn't feel. We kind of, no one really knew what was going on, and we all sat down in the hall. Everyone was there, players, staff, backroom staff, and we all sat there, and then all of a sudden, this bloke who none of us had seen just came and stood up at the front, and we're like, who's this fella? Like, what's going on here? None of us had ever seen him before, and he just turns around and just says, just to inform you all that as of an hour ago, you all were made redundant and no longer work for Wasps Limited. And the room's just like completely silent. And I think everyone was a bit baffled, because it was like, well, hang on a minute. Like, we were told that our contracts would be held in escrow, and that there's going to be a new buyer, and then suddenly he was like, oh, we'll save the questions for after this lady who talks about the redundancy claims, and a couple of us, and I said, I was like, look, what's going on here? And I tried to sort of fight a couple of bits, and was arguing, and then as I was talking, I sort of realised that this is done now. This is genuinely done. Like, there's no going back. And as the redundancy claim lady sort of spoke about how to go claim your redundancy pay, I think I just sat there and couldn't believe, and was just trying to compute what had just happened. And I think everyone in the room was exactly the same. We were all sat there, and then it went back to the main guy, and he just said, yeah, so look, you know the details to claim your redundancy pay, so you no longer work for Wasps, you can go. And it was just like, what the fuck is going on? It honestly was, I think for me, the bit that leaves a sour taste is that we weren't told by someone we know. Like, the owners, no one means to lead a business down that way, and I know that their intentions wasn't that way, but I felt like we were owed, at the very minimum, to be told by someone we knew that we were losing our jobs. That I'd put my body on the line for Wasps. I put my heart and soul into it every single day, and I know that everyone else, from the backroom staff through to the players, gave everything for that club, and we just sat there in that room, completely blown away by what had happened. And then after they said that, I'll be honest, I just burst into tears in my seat. I just cried and cried and cried. Finally got myself together a bit, and then Dan Robson comes over and gives me a hug, and I burst into tears again. Finally get myself together again, and I suddenly turn around and see Launchers, who's given his life to Wasps and been Wasps. He is Wasps. When you think of Wasps, you think of Joe Launchbury. And I just burst into tears again. And then I knew in the back of my mind, the one person I didn't really want to go and speak to was my brother, because that's what's hurt the most throughout all of this. I think I'm so gutted that I can't play with some of my best mates again, but the chance that I may never play alongside Tom again hurts more than I can explain, if I'm honest. And I then eventually pulled myself together to go and give Tom a hug, and probably about 20 minutes after we've been told, and we're just hugging each other and crying our eyes out and just thinking about what had just gone on, and couldn't really compute it. But the fact that just the one thing that just kept coming back to my mind, and I know was going through his as well, is that we're never going to have this again. What we had as a team, we're never going to have that again. And as brothers, we may never get that opportunity again. And one thing I am grateful for is I look back and I feel like we enjoyed every single time we were out on the pitch together. I think that's probably down, for me, it was down to, because of my injuries, I never knew how many times I'd get to run out playing rugby, let alone play alongside my brother. So we made sure every single time we'd have a hug before the game, take it in, look at it. In the change rooms, we'd always be like next to each other, ready to go out, and we enjoyed every moment. But I can't tell you how much that hurt that day, and I don't think I'll ever forget what went on that day. If I'm honest. Jesus,
I tell you what, you've told that in an incredibly sort of emotive fashion, and even where are we? What, 3, 4, 5 months on? It's extraordinary to hear top level rugby in this country having to sort of go through those kind of processes.
But also, doesn't that sort of
sums up everything that you've?
I've been saying not necessarily about Wasps, just that level of professionalism that rugby prides itself. Oh no, we did a show the other day about how positive it was. Positive, so I won't hammer it too much, but I think that just goes to show like how unprofessional stuff is. And also, it's not your words, Jack. This is my words, but also the characters of the people running Wasps not to have the balls to address the lads. That for me,
mean, you never know with these things, and I'm not by any means defending, but you never know whether there's sort of a legal process that you have to go through.
I'm sure there is, but
obviously.
I'm sure you is. No, they can come and write a reply and say why you didn't come up and stand up. But I think, in life, you get very few opportunities. Whether you're allowed to go into detail, you still expect someone to say, "Listen, I've overseen this. This hasn't gone well. I'm sorry, I've let you down." And even if they broke down and they were upset, that is a character of a person. I always find the mark of someone is when you're under, like with relationships, you never know your partner until you've had a bit of loss, you've had a bit of strife, you've had your first fucking argument, you've had your first holiday together, you had your sad
first 10 minutes of your relationship.
You've had all this kind of stuff. Then that's why I'm always wary of people who fall in love straight away. Because you don't know someone until you've gone through a bit of trial and tribulation. And it's the same thing with sport. You spend so much time bleeding with each other on the field, and you find out about people. Like Jack will tell you. We've signed people at Wasps. At the first fitness session, you find out they've got an absolute pea heart, and they can't. They're only interested in themselves. And it's the same thing with business and in life. If you fuck something up, no one, as I said, no one intended to drive Wasps into an iceberg like they did. But someone should have come up and said, "I'm sorry," because that it might not have made you feel any better, but at least we showed the mark of the person. And I think, unfortunately, a lot of the stuff that happened at that club was done. Regardless of lack of not great communication, didn't speak properly to the boys, didn't notify guys, just bullshit, hoping that it was going to be fine.
I think that was part of our frustration was just not knowing and hearing things on Twitter and then hearing it behind everyone else. Really was part of the frustration. I think actually, it's just popped into my mind one thing that I do look back on that day that did actually make me laugh in such a dark moment. So me and my brother, going back to that moment where me and my brother were sort of in arms, just crying our eyes out. To give a bit of a context to this as well, you've got Luke Chain, who works for the RPA, absolute legend of a bloke, and couldn't do more for you on and off the field. Like he was so good through this whole process and has been since. Like, legend of a guy and one of the biggest advocates for mental health you're going to meet, and so supportive. He ended up having to do a little talk. Like, someone was like, "Luke, any words?" It's like, fucking hell, the poor bloke. Everyone's just been told they've lost their job. They're like, "Luke, anything you're going to say to make everyone feel better?" But so he's had to do that, and then I think he's probably just a bit blown away by everything that's gone on. And he's seen me and Tom just almost inconsolable, crying our eyes out, like a couple of big babies. We just would have needed my dad to be in the huddle as well, and we'd have been a big mess.
He would have been crying as well.
Yeah,
he would have been absolutely crying.
100%. But so me and Tom were sort of crying away, and Luke's come over to sort of, I guess, to console us. And what he said was what he meant to say. What he meant to say, I think, was sort of, "Look, let it all out, lads. Let it all out." But he's come over. So me and Tom were crying away. He's come over. And he's put his arm around us. He's been there we could see him sort of there for a couple of seconds. And he's just turned round to us and just goes, "Come on, lads, let it go." and I turned round, me and Tom turned round, eyes full of tears. Fucking let it go, Luke. It happened 20 minutes ago. And he's like, no, I mean? Fucking let it go. Like this, he's like, let it go. He's like, and he didn't know how to say it. He's like, and I was like, do you mean let it out? He's like, yeah, let it out. And it's honestly like, it just, for me, it was like you either laugh or cry, and I was already crying, and it was honestly absolute gold.
Get over it, man.
Yeah, just fucking, come on, lads, fucking let it go. Happened 20 minutes ago,
yeah.
Unbelievable.
I'm interested because I'm trying to think of how I would have reacted in that situation. I probably would have gone shockingly to anger, and
Falling down. I'm getting Michael Douglas flavours.
Yeah, I just one of those sort of last moment of school, like gone back into that training centre and started ripping shit off the wall, like taking anything you could get, like walking out with a microwave and a coffee machine, like nicking everything, and said all the things that I've always wanted to say to people. Now I'm not employed. You're fucking shit. You're annoying. You were awful. You couldn't run a club. But did anyone react like that, or was everyone quite calm?
I honestly think everyone was so blown away because it caught us so off guard. And I know that sounds a little bit silly that it caught us off guard, even though with everything that was going on in the media. I think because we were getting told things behind the scenes that were more positive than the things we read in the media, we were probably made to feel like, oh, we know a little bit more than they do. Like, we're all good. And then to suddenly get hit the way we did, it just hit everyone for six. And I don't think it wasn't until everyone had already left and was on their own and they'd got home, probably seen their partner or whatever, that they really realised what had just happened. It really was crazy.
Did anyone try and I would have started loading equipment, like gym equipment, on a lorry and
most
shit.
Most of it had stolen already, hadn't it? Gone on an away day.
I would have, yeah. I mean, yeah. But I mean, did because obviously after that, a lot of guys, you didn't get paid, did you? So you missed out on. Did you guys get paid up to the point, or did you just stop getting paid straight away and that was it? No more money, no image rights, nothing.
Yeah, we were probably a little bit luckier than the Worcester lads, that they hadn't been paid for a couple of months building up to that. Whereas we got paid. We actually got paid like a day late on one of the months leading up. I think it was August or September, and it was like, that's a bit weird. Why is that? And they were like, oh, it was an admin error. I was like, well, I've been here 8 years and we've never had an admin error, so like, we're not stupid. Come on. And they finally sort of admitted, it was just a cash flow problem. And then we never got paid for that last month of work. But I know there's guys behind the scenes that are working really, really hard to try and keep the Wasps badge alive and work out the best route to pay the rugby creditors that are properly owed that money. And they're trying their best and doing a great job to try and keep that alive. But the tough thing is you just don't know which way it's going to unfold.
How pleased are you to see that the badge does live on? Will you keep an eye on them in the championship, or when you talk about that sort of disappointment, the sour taste? Is it sort of? Nancy Watson said he won't ever build bridges with Bath again. Are you pleased to see Wasps live on, or are you on to something new?
Yeah, no. Look, I think that I hope that Wasps as a club can go back to the great club that it was and can get back to that point. I think the first step is to get back into the championship and get everything in line that they need to, and definitely be watching on. I look back on my time at Wasps and I'm so grateful for so many amazing memories and some amazing friends that I've got, and my first opportunity to play professional rugby. So yeah, I look back on it in a really positive way. It's just it's a real shame how it came to an end.
Very quick, you mentioned your brother a number of times. How's he getting on? And who's parlaying the better French at the moment?
I think his French is pretty much when his compulsory French lesson that he has to go to each week is probably the only French that he's speaking. Then he gets home and he's like, "Oh, right, that'll do," because he knows he's going to Saracens next year. So I don't think he's been particularly passionate, but no, he's loved it. He's loved it down at Bordeaux. I think it's such a great experience. Bordeaux's got an incredible fan base as well, and he's loved that. It's definitely, like we were saying, you're playing in big games each week. It's big occasions in front of, I think he played in front of 50,000 fans at the local football stadium in Bordeaux the other week against La Rochelle, and you just think, like, you look back a couple of months and you really wouldn't, like, it does blow your mind to think that we're both in France playing at different teams from the days where we were running around trying to piss Hask off down at Broad Street.
Does anyone know your brother's actual name, or does everyone still think it's Tim?
He's managed to shake that off. I think that was probably one positive for him for Wasps going bust. He's like, I'm going to shake the nickname Tim off that Hask created all those years ago.
I just refused to learn his proper name, so just calling him Tim. And I wanted to see how long I called him Tim before he corrected me. It was about 3 weeks and then I think Jack came up
to a couple of lads and was like, "Do you really think Hask thinks I'm called Tim?"
And Jack came up to me and went,
Jack,
yeah, but I think, do you know what the best thing is? I think even the guy we just called Toast, the cleaner, I think I named him Toast. Like, I've scarred people I forgot about that.
Scarred nations.
I forgot about that. Genuinely, I went for a shit, the toilet door fell on my head. Like, just the whole building was falling down around us.
Well, it wasn't what you were doing in there.
No. You're playing Tom on the 7th of May. Like, what's that going to be like?
Yeah, I was actually just calculating the number of tickets that we've organised for that game. I think we've got 23 family members coming, and my dad's got a load of mates coming from our local rugby club as well. Me and Tom actually were chatting on the phone about it the other day, and I think when you first think about it, you think, oh yeah, that's exciting, I'll get stuck into him, and then actually, I think it's going to stun us a little bit if we actually both do get picked for that game and we're both fit and well and coming up against each other. I think we're going to be like, what's going on here? This doesn't feel quite right. But
you need to melt him. You need to melt him and stamp the authority on him straight away.
Yeah, just get red card and just like that.
Don't injure him. But you've got to put it like it's when me and Doz used to play against each other or your mates. Yeah. You have to go real hard, otherwise, because if you go soft, one of you's going to get hurt, and also you have to put a marker down, mate. It's like dominance, like he's coming for the he's coming for the throne. Do you know what I mean? I wouldn't. I'd just bang him once and go, listen, I love you, kid, but remember, don't run down the channel.
Yeah.
Is he looking forward to Saracens?
Yeah, he can't wait. I think he's watching on most weeks at the moment on what they're up to, and I think you know what a quality outfit Saracens are, and they're another team that have led the way in Europe and in England for a long way around professionalism and creating an environment where they want to win games and win trophies, and I think Tom shares my ambition for winning trophies, and he knew when that opportunity came up that he was going to the right place, and he went for it with both arms, and I think he's really excited to go and get stuck in.
Yeah, I can see him making an enormous impact when he comes back. Let's have a quick word on England, because it's obviously been a funny old few months, hasn't it, for the national setup, in which your stock has very much risen and the national teams has sort of, well, it's highs and lows, obviously, at the moment. But do you walk out of that Six Nations from a personal point of view, having enjoyed it, having learnt a lot, or are you sort of obsessed with the collective team at the moment, and it's just we've got a lot to do in a very short space of time?
I think I look at it from two factors, really. I think for me, I absolutely loved that 8 weeks in the Six Nations. It's obviously a new setup under Steve and the guys, and it was a different experience, but one that I really, really enjoyed and felt I learned loads. I learned both stuff off and on the field. I think how we want to go about things. I was really grateful that I got some more opportunities than I'd had in the past as well. I think for me, being able to get a few starts in there was brilliant, and a brilliant experience. And I know how competitive that back row is and how much talent there is in that position, that I need to be trying to play my best and improve week on week. I think as a collective, I think the results sometimes don't reflect the work that's gone on in behind the scenes. And the lessons that are being learned. I think we learned a big lesson in the France week, both personally and as a group. That hurt a lot, and we learned a lot of lessons that week. And I think we put out a real showing of what's to come against Ireland. I think we did a lot of things right. We obviously had the red card that really wasn't a red card, but it was what it was, and we were still in that game until late on. But I think I genuinely have a real belief that if we have that World Cup build up and head towards the World Cup with that amount of prep, that under Steve and the team will be heading in a positive direction. And yeah, I really believe that's the case.
What do you think you've got to do to really cement yourself in that position, like in terms of your point of difference? Because you talked about the physicality in playing in France, right? And I think the one thing for me, looking at this England side, I think that real sort of physicality, grit, and a bit of fear. You know, when other teams go, fuck me, we're playing Jack Willis. He's been folding French people up, you know, for fun in those leagues. What is it you feel that's going to really nail you in that spot?
I think you have to try and have an X factor to be in the back row for England. I think, but it's also about having strength across the game. I think I've always tried to really push my jackal and turnovers. That's something that I really focus on going into games, but that can't be the only thing. I think something that I'm working really hard on improving is my dominance in my defensive tackles, and having that as well, so that it's not just the jackal threat, it's sort of double-edged sword, but you have to offer something in attack as well, and that's where I feel like Toulouse is a great opportunity for me to develop my ball carrying and carrying in space and working to create space as well, and something you're going to need coming up against the best teams is to be able to ball carry. So I'm working really hard on that side of my game to try and be as balanced as I can across all areas, to be as strong as I can, to put my best foot forward, really, because as we said, it's so competitive, and I need to be as strong as I can in all fields, really, to try and cement a spot.
In regards to the ball playing thing, you said that a couple of times about Toulouse. Obviously, you know, in rugby, you can't just keep run through space and just an offload and expect people to be there. Is the whole, because we've always been fascinated about Toulouse, you know, whenever we played them, we always talked about their offloading game. You know, Sean Edwards was always like, right, lads, just you know, don't let them offload. How are you developing that? Because is it a case of you're playing and you're going through contact and you know someone's there because they're all looking for it? Because I think English teams don't necessarily look for it. Sometimes it comes off, but it's quite obvious because you've sort of turned your body and see it. Whereas Toulouse seem to, it's second nature. Is that how are you getting your head around trying to develop that?
Yeah, I think that early on was probably one of the biggest things for me to try and get my head around, was the ability that everyone else was so aware that, and the anticipation that there could be an offload coming. So instead of just sort of putting your head down and clearing a ruck, it's like, well, actually, before that ruck's even started, I could be a running option for them to pop off the deck. Little things like that is something that we will develop in training as well. It's the way we train, not only the way we play at the weekend. It's day in, day out, testing those skills, doing extra skills sessions, and then when we're on the field, just sort of the speed of the breakdowns and the way we're going about the offloads as well is sort of how it's prepped, really.
Solid rugby chat, Hask.
Yes, I'm
quite impressed.
Sorry. I can do it. It's not all just jokes and laughs.
Jesus Christ.
Again, just like someone like Dupont, right? Obviously, he's so instrumental to the way Toulouse play, right? But he's so destructive in the way he attacks, he creates space. How are you building is he someone that you've looked at and gone, right, actually really build a relationship with him and try to work off him and sort of see what he wants, those kind of things? Because again, I'm fascinated with, you know, he's someone that I would just try to be not friends with, but I would be like, look, all the time going, right, I know that he wants to run, I know that he's going to put the ball here, I know I can get it. Same thing with Untimac, sort of trying to read how they play. Is that something you're trying to do as well? And do you feel like it'll help improve you in your attacking game because you've got someone that's going to create space for you?
Yeah, definitely. And I think giving them the time and space on the ball rather than sort of timing your run too early, you want to give get that depth right, don't you? And give them their time to create that space as well. I think adapting to this style of play is very different from other styles of play I've been part of, but equally the way we train, you can learn to adapt pretty quickly. I think you see the skill level of all our forwards as well, which is unbelievable. A lot of the Frenchies are exactly the same. They go away, the national team, they play a very similar way, and yeah, I think it's just about having that focus week to week on if I can keep developing my basic skill level from a passing point of view, an offloading point of view, that hopefully it will start to sort of get better and better each week. Which is good news for England. What's your relationship like with Steve? Yeah, look, as I said, I loved working with Steve during the Six Nations, and I'd love the opportunity to work with him again come the World Cup. But all I can control is playing as well as I can for Toulouse. I've had some good conversations with Steve on what I need to focus on and what I need to go after, and that for me is all I can do building up to the World Cup, because it means a lot to me to be involved in a few months' time. Super quote. We'll give that straight to the BBC. That's right on message chat. Well done. I am interested though, but do you find working with him, and we hear so much, you talk often about the detail that he brings. I mean, you're talking a lot about the improvements you're making down in Toulouse. I just wondered whether through him you're feeling, you know, you've had a few runs
at England now, whether you're feeling more comfortable on the international stage. You don't appear to be the new kid on the block anymore. It's now Jack Willis time. The headlines are much more, beginning to support you as a long-term option for England.
Well, look, yeah, I think for me, as I said, I've got real confidence in where we were heading, and Steve fills you with confidence as well to go out there and do your best when you get the opportunity to put the shirt on. So I felt really grateful to have the opportunities I had in the Six Nations, and it just made me want more opportunities, even more, to be part of this group and part of the group that's heading forwards. I think there's a real belief that we can go and change the opinions of how we're looked at the moment, and go and do something, sort of keep our heads down and crack on with it, really.
Interesting. 2 quick questions. Just to sort of round up the chat, I suppose. Your last plug for the French Tourist Board. How good, living down there and experiencing France as you are, how good is Rugby World Cup 2023 going to be?
From a neutral's point of view, and from whatever team you support, really, the atmospheres are going to be absolutely incredible. I think the games that we play in, the French fans are absolutely bonkers and make noise from the first minute to the last minute, whether they're winning or losing. And I think not only will the stadiums be absolutely crazy, I think the streets and the towns and the pubs and bars as well will be absolutely packed out. It's I genuinely think it's going to be really special, and that's, as I said, that's why I want to be another reason why I want to be part of it, and to be able to go and achieve something in France with an England shirt on would be really special.
Final question. Honest answers only. Have you got other England teammates at the moment saying hook us up with a gig at Toulouse?
No, I think. Yeah. All I can say.
We got him.
All I can say is I feel very grateful to be down here at Toulouse, and off the back of everything that happened at Wasps, I know that I've ended up in a really, really special spot, and I feel very happy where I am at the moment.
The Beeb will be delighted with that answer as well. Thank you very much indeed.
Do you reckon can I come down and watch a game? Do you reckon they'll let me bring a friend to training day so I can watch training and come watch you play? Do you reckon they'll let me do that?
Yeah, we could get that sorted. We're not paying you a fee though, mate.
No. I'd love to come and I'd love to
like
go.
A competition winner.
Come on on a Thursday, see them train Thursday, team run Friday, play Saturday, have a Saturday night out, and then fuck off Sunday.
We should do that. I think we should. 100%. I think we should do a French road trip next season.
I want
to go to Knowles in La Rochelle.
Yeah, I would love to. In the chateau, have you got a spare room?
Yeah, I reckon you and Payno could fit in there, definitely. We get you in.
Nice.
I'm always in the glove box, unfortunately, but that's very kind.
We shared a room once in Japan, and I snored.
For about 10 minutes.
Yeah.
I then had to go and sleep on the floor in the corridor.
I'm a big snorer, yeah. It's a bit of a nightmare.
Diabolical. I haven't really got over the experience, to be honest with you. So we've got a new feature, which is Rugby's Greatest Partnerships, brought to you by our very good friends at Heycar. And because you're on, we have picked back row partnerships this week. And the really frightening thing is I'm about to name 3. And obviously, I'm worried you're only going to have watched one in real time. Lots of discussion around this. Lots of discussion around the fact that we're going to do halfbacks and props and centres and back 3 as well. So keep an eye out for the poll on our channels. But we're going to debate very quickly our favourite back row partnership from 3 contenders. Hask, take us through it.
Richard Hill, Neil Back and Lawrence Delalio.
Did you ever see those 3 play? How old were you in 03?
I did 03. I would have been 7. So
Jesus.
I've watched those games since. I wouldn't have been writing down notes at 7. But,
whatever, you're absolute keno. Of course you were.
Yeah.
Your dad was making you run drills out in the garden and fight your brother.
Okay, Hillback Delalio first up.
Jack had to maul his brother to get dinner. Yeah. Next one, we've got Jerome Kano, Richie McCaw and Kieran Reid.
Yep.
And Sia Khaleesi, Peter Steph-Dutoit and Dwayne Vermeulen.
Yeah. So, do you want to fire first?
I mean, I was trying to think if there's... First of all, I tried to think if there's any ones we've missed out.
Very good ones that have been left out.
Yeah.
What about the Willis brothers and Hask back in the day? Newcastle at home. I think was that an LV game?
It was an LV game.
Well, let's stick them in, because that means we've got 3 back row winning partnerships, World Cup winning back row partnerships, and an LV Cup champion team.
I don't think that gets to the same league, does it?
That was really the end of that. Was really, when I got.
Was that your?
Even Di? I actually asked Di to play in that game,
right?
And he wouldn't. And he was like, "You don't have to."
In the LV Cup.
Yeah, LV Cup. Let's not play any time. I got to play with the Willis brothers. Both of them scored. Had stormers. I was pretty shit house. So that's.
Right. Did Di take you aside at the end and said, now do you see what I'm talking about?
yeah. No, you shouldn't have involved. It did. The share price in Haskell Enterprises did not go up. But I
Can't have gone lower than Wasps PLC.
But with these two hanging out on a wing, just waiting for the ball, I did all the fucking hard work in the middle, so it wasn't a problem. I'd say, look, Richard Hill, Neil Batt, and Lawrence Lalliot, I think pretty amazing. Just all round, that very, very dominant. I can't look past them. I do think, obviously, Richard McCaw's my hero. And
he did win a World Cup on one foot, didn't he?
Yeah.
Reading Payno. You would have played against Khaleesi, Dutoit, and Vermeulen. Where does that rank in your opponents?
I think so. Khaleesi, I played last weekend. I don't think I've played against Dutoit or Vermeulen. I might have Vermeulen, maybe, but yeah, look, he's an incredible athlete, an incredible rugby player, and I think everything that comes with him and his story is pretty special as well. What he's achieved for the country, and how much belief the country has in him, and what he sort of means, not just behind the rugby, but outside of that as well, is pretty special. I think out of the three back rows, I probably when I grew up and when I was in full Norse mode, as Hask would say, I would have grown up watching that New Zealand back row of Jerome Kano, Richie McCaw, and Kieran Reid, and definitely would put that as the strongest, probably because I grew up watching that era and the sort of dominance they had and what a part they played in it as well. And I'm now lucky enough to work with Jerome at the club as well.
What's his role there? Remind me.
So he runs the sort of breakdown and contact area, but leads the part of the Espoir. He runs the sort of forwards of the Espoir group, which is like the academy group.
I have a lot of time for him on every level. Please send my regards to him and give him a big hug because he's an absolute boy.
I think you're going to have to. I mean, what I like about Hill back to Lalliot is they all go together, and I think McCaw stands out on his own. Reid obviously had his moments. Kano, highly respected. Vermeulen's had his injury problems. Steph Dutoit was obviously player of the tournament in 2019. And Khaleesi, as you say, speaks for himself. But when you're talking partnerships. I think you do go Hill back to Lalliot.
Just because they were instrumental together, they all played their roles
they
so
did very
definitively.
Different roles.
Three very different characters, three very, very competitive men, three very different roles, as you say.
Lowell played every minute of that 03 tournament as well.
Yeah, and Neil Back in his day was just incredible in that position. He could do things that other people couldn't do. Especially, I know size is always a thing with him, but it made no difference. And he was an ultimate competitor. I remember one of the players, one guy said, Neil Back's a bit of a prick, but he's the kind of prick you want on your team because he's so competitive and so. We've all got teammates like that who are like
positive, negative.
Yeah, positive. What I mean, like you're like they're very, very competitive, very nightmarish, but luckily pointed in the right direction. I wasn't that nightmarish. Well, maybe I might have been. I don't know.
It's a bit of a prick, but you want him on your team.
Richard Hill, the most undersung, oversung hero of all time. People always say, "Oh, Richard Hill, doesn't get the praise." Richard Hill got the praise every week, and everyone always said, "Oh, he's an unsung hero." No, you can't be unsung if you talk about it every time.
It was a joke at Sky. If you didn't know who to give the man of the match to, you just give it to Richard Hill.
Yeah,
because he's probably done something.
You
look intelligent by picking him because it looks like you've seen something no one else has.
Yeah, exactly. You just assumed that you could do it, but he and also he's a great man. Hilly, really nice, and Lawrence. Obviously, Lawrence, just a colossus of a man. I mean, obviously, Jack being the absolute super Norse has named his boy after Lawrence Neil after his.
Have you?
Yeah.
That's a Wasp thing, is it?
He's trying to spread some rumours there.
Yeah.
Not true.
Someone must have said that to you before. I thought you had.
They have, yeah.
Like as a mark of respect.
Journalists, journalists say stuff like that. I'm like, no, unfortunately not. I love the name.
It's a great name. It's a great name. It's a great name. But as soon as I saw it, I was, Jack's such a kiss ass. He's just named it after.
We're going to get clobbered in New Zealand, but that's the beauty of doing this show. I think our favourite back row partnership, just on the partnership element of it, rather than standalone individuals. And I know Kenny, McCaw and Reid, did they win it 11 and 15? I can't remember if all... certainly it was 2015, that back row. Someone will correct me.
2011 was McCaw, Reid,
Kano.
And Kano.
Yeah, it was. I think they won 2 World Cups together, didn't they?
So they did well.
Yeah. Anyway, it's in ink now. Hill back to Lalliot. Well done to the three of you.
Yeah.
Khaleesi, Steph Dutoit and Vermeulen, we may well see later this year. Jack, you're a star. It's been really, really nice to have you on. And we're getting a bit of positivity in at the moment. The debate is going to rumble for quite some time around French players, England-based France. No, hang on, take 3. France-based England players, and I'm afraid your name's going to be right at the forefront of it. But I think everybody in England will hope that there is a resolution that sees you continuing not only ripping it up during the World Cup, but onwards and beyond as well. So enjoy all of that's to come over the next few weeks and months, and we'll look forward to catching up, I think, hopefully before the World Cup time when you're back in the country.
Brilliant. Look forward to it, lads. Thank you.
Here's to a French road trip in the next season as well.
Well, not next season. I'm going to get out this season. This is the big games, isn't it?
Right,
Yeah.
okay.
I'm going to get out, especially now he's got a bit of cash.
Yeah.
I might get a coffee off him or at least a beer. I mean, I haven't seen one of the entirety I've known him, but
Stick it on my tab.
Yeah.
We'll have a Diet Coke lemonade
Tighter than
mix.
a Dutch
Yeah, a
butty.
little mixer.
Listen, good on you. Very best of luck for all that's to come. Keep ripping it up, and we'll look forward to catching up soon.
Thank you very much, guys. Cheers.
And there he goes. Just before we finish off our Heycar bit, I'm a man just living the dream.
I honestly think that in the saddest of circumstances, that's the best thing that could ever have happened to him on every single level. He's a great guy, a lovely bloke, but this will be the making of him as a man, as a player, give him a different perspective, life experience, and I just think he's only going to get better because of this. And also playing with that kind of talent, you know, that ability to compare yourself to them all the time and check and see, actually, because it's lovely to look behind the curtain and go, what do the best professionals do in the world? You know, like Dupont, does he work on his skills relentlessly, or is he out the back having a tab and it just comes naturally? Just nice to see. And also playing in that French league, you know, because you're playing against superstar after superstar, are you able to compete? Do you know what I mean? Are you able to...
How's that Domino's working for you?
Domino's going really well. Domino's is coming up, lovely.
You have inhaled a 16-slice pizza in between the pickups.
Rolled up and snorted it.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think it's going to be amazing for him. And I think when you go to play those top 14 games away, his ability to check out whether he can compete with some of the best back row in the world will only drive his confidence. And who doesn't want to live in Toulouse? You know, Coventry versus Toulouse. I mean, it's poles apart, isn't it?
Yeah. Don't send him the abuse because he went Payno, McCourt and Reed. We've gone Hillback Delalio as our Heycar back row greatest partnership. Let us know via the medium of messaging who you would have picked, who we've left out, why we've got it wrong, why you are right. Please feel free to drop all of that, as well as voting via our socials this week on our poll, powered by Heycar, who make buying a car easier with their large range of quality check used cars within a single app. And unlike our back row trio of Hillback Delalio, who surely covered hundreds of thousands of miles in their careers, all Heycar vehicles have less than 100,000 miles on the clock. All of them are under 8 years old, and all of them come with a warranty and a 10-day money-back guarantee, all at the click of a button via your fingertips. And if you want to know more, download the Heycar app to find your perfect car. Thank you to Heycar. Back row we've gone with is Hillback Delalio. Hard luck to Payno, McCourt and Reed. Khaleesi, Dutoit and Vermeulen. I'm not sure any of that 6 are going to lose a lot of sleep over it.
No, I don't think so. I doubt
your life wouldn't be worth living if you'd gone against Lal as well.
Yeah, I know, big old D. And he did a little guest pod with you, didn't he?
He did, yeah.
You in
a little 03 retrospective, but that was for the
I wasn't involved
because
I wasn't there. I was at school. Well, anyway, we've got some amazing news about the Premiership Rugby Final. There are still some tickets available for the Gallagher Premiership Final at Twickenham on the 27th of May. A great way to get to HQ and experience some excellent rugby, Alex. The amazing atmosphere on the final day is like no other as well, I should know. Played there a couple of times and won. Some tickets have just been released in the West Stand too, so head over to eticketing.co.uk/Premiership Rugby to get your tickets now. And GBR will also be there with Ellis Genge for a pre-show too, so be quick to grab your tickets before they go. eticketing.co.uk/Premiership Rugby. It's going to be unbelievable. I can feel the excitement. The Premiership.
I just love the fact it's hot rugby.
Hot rugby. I think that's why rugby should be a summer sport.
Yeah.
The pints will be flowing. The atmosphere will be buzzing. Someone will be crowned champion. You'll be there with your chat. I'm in Ibiza DJing. But, you know, I'll be thinking of you.
It's win-win-win all
round. It is.
round.
I'll be thinking of you when I'm drinking a Paloma and watching beautiful women go by as you're watching rugby noses dressed up to nines, cheering for the team.
Horses for courses.
Horses for courses.
Talking of watching beautiful rugby players go by, it's only 5 months to go until Rugby World Cup, of course, and thanks to Infinity Travel, we are there. We are cruising. I'm not sure how much cruising we're doing, but we're certainly going to be in Marseille on a boat, and the question that we're asking you is what could possibly go wrong? If you want to find out, do join us via Infinity Travel in a city where it's nigh on impossible to get a hotel room. We're going to be with you and 4,000 others floating on a luxury hotel. 17 restaurants on board.
17 restaurants,
Do you think we
Alex?
could do 17 restaurants in 4 days?
Do you know what? Honestly, when I saw the map of the boat,
Yeah.
And I saw the cigar lounge. I saw all the other bits and pieces.
Yeah.
The first thought that came into my head...
Bowling alley.
The first thought that came into my head is I want to eat and drink at every single place on that boat. And that's
So
why
that's 4.1 restaurants per day. So
I can do that.
4 square meals a day.
I can do that.
Yeah.
I genuinely can do that. I would like to because they've got gym as well. So if I train, eat, a cigar in the evening, DJing, we'll be in the theatre.
Yeah.
I think we're pretty much invincible.
Okay. Join us on our quest to complete all 17 restaurants on board over the course of 4 days. We've actually got a second cruise that's only 3 days.
Plenty of bars
So we're going
as
to have
well.
to go 9 restaurants a day.
Yeah, we can do that.
Okay. That's a lot of food.
Yeah, I think you should have
Although, having seen how you've snorted your pizza, that should be
I think we're
about
right.
10 minutes work.
I mean,
for
a liver could be... I mean, also, what's the worst that could happen trapping you, me and Mike on a boat? Essentially a sealed container with 4,000 other people, because Tins was loose enough in Japan marching around the streets on his own. I mean, if someone
It's
pulls
going to
a
be the
pin out of
greatest
him,
game of hide and seek.
Oh
It's going to be a Guinness World Record game of hide and seek. Or charades, when you all have to find...
the Scarlet Hask, we seek him here, we seek him there, like people trying to find me. Imagine that, pin the tail on the Hask, just running around trying to avoid 4,000 kinos.
If that ain't enough to join us, I don't know what is. We're going to be there for the opening weekend with a viewing party on deck, and that's going to be watching the opener between France and the All Blacks, as well as the quarter-final weekend as well. Hask is on the decks, and to secure tickets for what will be a truly unique way to experience Rugby World Cup France 2023, head to infinitysportstravel.com/GBR. Come and sign up for the chaos.
I think that's going to be the most exciting thing we've done so far.
Yeah, I'm actually genuinely... I'm excited, curious,
Scared.
frightened,
Yes.
all in one package.
How many gilets, red trousers and barbers?
Well, it's a continental crew, apparently, so it may well be a few Argentinians and a couple from New Zealand and
I'd absolutely
a
love
smorgasbord of Australians.
Yeah, a global
I
audience.
think there won't be many red trousers
Fine.
and gilets aboard.
Fine, a global audience is what
But if you want to travel with gilet and red trousers, everyone's welcome.
No, you're not allowed.
Lock-In.
Well, the Lock-In. So we do a separate... I want to call it a podcast, but it's normally really a rambling shambles of nonsense that is put out on Apple, where you can subscribe to it. It's £3 a month.
Yep.
It's special content. It's coming to Spotify very soon. The normal show, as we've said many times, will always stay free, just crammed full of adverts, just to keep the lights on. But Lock-In, we talk about everything. It's sort of irreverent nonsense about our lives, our families, our thoughts, our inner workings, just sort of like a verbal diarrhea of things that we are passionate about and not passionate about. I mean, we talked about conspiracy theories, and
AI, sex robots.
We also then talked about live music venues.
Yes.
And what else did we talk about?
My first ever live gig was Christaberg.
Yeah, it was.
I shattered the illusion on a weekly basis.
You do?
Or do I just fan the flames of very average?
I think you fanned the flames of the caricature that I've painted you to be, but the reality is when we found out you were chiseling wood in one of your many outhouses was the best one.
Euphemism. That's
it's not a sexual thing. But yes, please subscribe, please share Lock-In, you'll absolutely love it. We'd love to hear your feedback. Please hit us up and let us know whether you like it, whether you listen. Apparently some people are. I mean, I think it's very cheap at £3 a month, if I'm honest with you.
Good. Money to a good cause as well, relatively speaking. That's us almost done. Before we finish up, don't forget the Good, the Scaz and the Rugby podcast in partnership with Vodafone, with all the latest from the women's game. And this week, a very special guest in Lynn Cantwell, who is one of the greats of the Ireland women's team. Obviously looking ahead to England against Ireland. Lynn's very plugged into all things women's South African team as well. So it'd be fascinating to get her take on the Six Nations. And just before we go as well, friend of the show, Simon Dent, is running the Marathon de Sable this Friday. My brother's done that, actually.
It's terrific.
I think he did quite well to finish it.
I've known Simon since I was 17 to now.
Yeah.
And if you told me he was running marathons and getting to real fitness, I would have laughed. But he's now a very successful agent and marathon runner and an absolute picture of health.
And friend of GBR as well. He's running for Delalia Rugby Works, which is why we're giving it a good plug. It's Lawrence's charity helping young people excluded from education in getting the skills that they'll need to move into sustained education, training or employment after school. And if you'd like to pop a pound in Simon's pot, it really is one of the great challenges to take on. It's an extraordinary achievement to make it to the finish line. Good luck to you. justgiving.com/Simon Dent's Run in the Sun.
Imagine I tried to do that.
I don't think you'd make it. I don't think you'd make it to the end of day one. You have to. It's like all about. You can't just set off and go. You have to make certain points by certain times, otherwise they pull you out.
Oh, really?
Yeah, you've got to do it and do it properly.
Oh.
One other bit for you. I'm going to keep plugging away at this because I truly believe in the power of GBR and the ability to shine a spotlight on the club game. What's the main thing is I'm trying to get it further into into a run than your bin juice effort.
Well,
Died after 2 shows.
It did die after 2 shows.
Yeah.
Because
you don't persist.
I did. No, because you know what it is? Because the producers kept saying, "Oh, we can't fit it in this week. Can't fit it in this week," and I just gave up. I gave up. I can't work if I can't work with some people.
Absolute Shirtshow this week is Cobham Rugby Club with Ian Sned and 25 other vets who are jetting off to Jamaica this week to deliver £3,000 worth of kit to 2 of Jamaica's leading rugby schools, York Castle and Arbuthnot Gallimore High, to help inspire grassroots rugby on the island. It's a great cause, helping to spread our beautiful game, and frankly, any kind of trip to Jamaica is well worth doing. They've basically gone lads tour Jamaica, and we'll get it through the wives' club by saying we're going to take some kit. How can we
get over going on an absolute tearer? I know, we'll just take £3,000 worth of kit. Yeah. It's probably just one ball.
Someone has literally just bought £3,000 worth of kit, stuck it in the boot, said, great, we got a pink pass.
Also, it's like, there's going to be no receipt. It's like intangible, so it's good, like, there's a signed rugby ball. That's worth £3,000. There we are.
Exactly.
£3,000 worth of kit, it's just a rugby ball.
That is
signed
inspired touring.
Yeah.
Well done to Cobham Rugby Club. Good luck to you, Ian. I hope you get your £3,000 worth of kit.
Jamaican Old Crocs versus Cobham All-Stars, isn't it? That's what it's called.
Is that right?
Yeah, it's on the shirt. It says Jamaica. I didn't want to get involved in this shirt, I think, because I think it's
but
absolute
I'd drawn you in, you see. Now you're getting really excited about it.
But can I ask, is people actually sending this in?
Yes.
So people are actually buying into this?
People listen, they buy, they want to be a part of it. God. They love the absolute shirt show. Which goes to show what you know about producing.
I know nothing about the average man and the normal viewer. I don't,
No. I think that's us done. Any other business?
Yeah, I was just going to say about Chris Ashton. Scored
yes, indeed.
101 Premiership tries, retired at the end of the season. He scored a try and then jumped over the hoarding and applauded himself this week.
Which was first done by Felipe Contepomi playing for Bristol back in
it was genius.
Yes.
Unfortunately, I reckon I would have, if I tried to, I would have jumped, fallen over the barrier, landed on my head, not been able to do
Wheeled off
from
the disabled area.
I love he's done that. 101 tries, leading to Premiership try scorer. What a journey he's had. What a bloke he's been as well.
There was a very good article on him this week where he said, rugby needs characters, but I've shown mine I've been clobbered for it for 15 years.
Yeah.
Did you read? You wouldn't have read that.
No, but
I mean, isn't that true? I love him or loathe him. He is... And we're very much in the love him camp. He has been. He gets cut through.
I think Chris Ashton is brilliant. I think he's very interesting. I keep getting flashbacks to 2011 World Cup. We got this delivery of chocolate from Cadbury's. He somehow had access to it. He'd knock on my door in the afternoon when he'd be bored and I'd be working or doing something. He'd come in. He'd give me a chocolate bar, then wrestle me. Yeah. And then go and leave. And he did it every day. And all he wanted to do was just have a wrestle. He was bored. He just wanted to have a wrestle. And just paid me with a chocolate bar. I still to this day don't understand how it manifests. He's like, ask me what you're doing. You're being boring, right? A chocolate bar, have a wrestle. And that's it. Right. He's just buying me off as a friend. It's one of the bizarre experiences of my life during the World Cup, having to wrestle my teammate. And then it wasn't like a sexual thing. It wasn't like her clothes fell off and we made love. It was genuinely just a wrestle for a chocolate bar. And I got a whisper, and he got a wrestle.
What's been wonderful as he's announced his retirement is watching. It's like it's the shit sandwich, really, isn't it? It's sort of a lot of it. So I saw George Cruise's post, which was terrible person, great player, and I presume that's a badge of honour and a mark of respect and love and affection. But I mentioned I did Wiggy's testimonial the other day, and we had really respected people coming up and paying great sort of credence to Richard and a lifetime in rugby. And Chris Ashton came up and everyone just chucked bread rolls and abused him, not literally, but metaphorically. He just he gave it out, they gave it back, and then he went back and we carried on with what was a lovely evening.
He's quite astute, Ashley, as well, but he just enjoys that kind of volatility, I think. I mean, some of the stuff he's like, hello, James. That's all he say to me. His little rubber his face is so smooth. He hasn't got a wrinkle. He looks like Morph from Art Attack. But he's just such a unique character. He was such a good player. Yeah. Like, he scored tries for fun. He did things in rugby and had an instinct for a try that I've not seen before. Yeah. And he's a great team man. He's just a bit mad, but in a really great way.
101 tries. Let's hope there might be a couple more. What a way to finish an extraordinary career in both League and Union with an ash splash to win the Premiership final.
And you know what? He's never dropped it, though, to my knowledge. Ever.
Can you imagine if he had?
That's what I mean. No, well, that was the problem. That's the only thing I was so nervous about. Imagine ash splashes in the final and then drops it. That would just sum it up for him. But I don't think he will. He's too good.
He's too good.
He's so fit. For a man that is so pale that he's almost see-through, you can see his organs in his heart.
Like an amoeba.
He is like an amoeba. He is the pastiest man in the world. He doesn't tan. But he had just an engine on him that was, remarkable.
Yeah. He'd be a very good guest, actually, at some point as well.
Yeah, he'd be great. It depends what mood he's in, but he would be great, yeah. Right. But I think as I said, boys, because he just gives people so much shit. Like, he's got a fascination with trainers, right? The only way he'd ever get him is if you had brand new white trainers on, you just you like stood on them or scuffed them, he'd go mental. He'd like shit in your room.
From the Sean Edwards School of Trainering.
Yeah, exactly.
Well done, Ashy. Good luck for what is to come, and well played on what has been. We will hopefully have a sit down with him before too long. But that is it for this week's show. Well done, Jack Willis. Keep your eyes peeled on Toulouse. Obviously a huge game against Leinster in the not too distant future as well, and a lot more for Jack to enjoy over the coming weeks and months. The Good, the Bad and the Rugby is produced by Shara Kilgallen and Ollie Hunter, and it's a Folding Pocket production. See you next week. Bye for now.